What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 21. So yes, the break has ended. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Work resumes as normal tomorrow for myself. That's why you guys are getting a little bit of a surprise Sunday upload, as we have so much to talk about. Now in this transfer plan, I'll be going over a quick recap of Game Week 20. I know it feels like forever ago, but don't worry, it was a massive game week for my own team. So I'll show you guys how big that green arrow was. Then I'll jump straight into all the Game Week 21 goodness. Is Erling Haaland coming in or not? What are we doing with Heung-min Son and Mo Salah? Don't worry, I'll be going over all my transfer plans shortly after the review. Now Game Week 21 proves to be a massive game week, but also for the future FA Cup games coming up tonight, as well as there's League Cup semi-finals happening on Tuesday as well as Wednesday. So by the end of this week, or at least by the Game Week 21 deadline, the double game week and the blank game week schedule should be known. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So as promised, Game Week 20 was an absolutely massive game week for ourselves. We scored 102 points, so yes, the 100 club was achieved, and a ridiculous game week rank of 47k. So I think this might be the best game week of this season, might not be the best game week I've ever had, but definitely for this season, the best game week. And that saw us basically halve our rank to 102k. So 102 points scored for 102k, you couldn't write it better in a novel. And the overall points are nicely rounded up to 1,200. Now I know that my game week was good, but I've seen some massive game week scores by you guys on Discord and on Twitter. So flex it, comment down below how big was your green arrow and how many points did you guys score. Now to make things even better, we've got 2 free transfers for Game Week 21 and 5.8 million left in the bank. So let's go on to the actual starting 11 and the bench and see where the points came from. Now starting off on our bench, quite a lot of bench dilemmas this week. Who to start between our defenders. In terms of our goalkeepers, Dubravka started off with an 8-pointer against Liverpool. So if you guys didn't watch that game, it was an absolute madness of a fixture. Dubravka saved Mo Salah's penalty in the first half, then went on to make I think about 10 or 11 saves, absolutely mental. But unfortunately the yellow card took him to an 8-pointer. So throughout this fixture, a lot of the time Dubravka was actually on 3 bonus points. He did drop off though as the game concluded. But we'll go back to Dubravka. I'll go over the rest of my bench. Saliba with the 0-pointer. Now there was a point that Aston Villa played before Arsenal. As you guys can see, I started Konza over Saliba. And after that 0-pointer from Konza, I was dreading the Saliba clean sheet. That obviously didn't happen. They conceded. They actually lost that game. Also Saliba racked up a yellow card. So it was 0 points for 0 points. But as mentioned, I was a little bit stressing about that Arsenal clean sheet. Then Lascelles made his comeback from injury against Liverpool. Only the 1-point appearance though came off as a sub. But I see that he's actually back from that injury. Now, do I think he'll actually play? Probably not. I think the kind of main choices are going to be Botman and Shaw. But we could see Lascelles get some minutes if they are going to rotate. Then finally, Archer for his 1-point appearance. As far as I know, against Man City, he was actually subbed. Don't really know why he didn't start. Might be kind of a knock or an injury. But I thought that he was a main starter in that Sheffield United starting 11. So overall, the bench was at least quite good. As mentioned, Saliba vs Konza was a big debate. But the funniest thing was those Dubravka 8 points. So if you guys know what happened, West Ham actually played on the Monday or the Tuesday night. So it was kind of the last fixture of the game week. And therefore not a lot of hope on Areola and that West Ham defense. So on Sunday night after the Liverpool vs Newcastle game, everyone was kind of saying they hope Areola either gets injured or sick or something like that. Because obviously wanted those Dubravka 8 points. But you guys know what happened next. Areola, he is him, scored 11 points. Absolutely insane kind of fixture. 0-0 between West Ham and Brighton. Areola racking up about 6 saves, which took him to the top of the bonus. So did I expect Areola to outperform Dubravka? No ways. I was just hoping that Areola scored about 9 points, took us to the 100 club. But the overachiever himself scored 2 extra points. Now West Ham's defense actually has been pretty bad over these previous game weeks. I know that West Ham have been keeping clean sheets, but that does show that Areola is making a few saves. So all I can say is thank you Areola for getting us to that 100 club, an absolute gem of a game week. Now let's go on to the worst part of the game week, and that's going to be our defenders. Going to start off with Konza, just spoke about him. Aston Villa played before Arsenal, I benched Saliba for Konza, both of them ended up on 0 points. Now, I don't really know what's happened with that Aston Villa defense. They were pretty solid, but have conceded some goals to some pretty bad attacks. Like Game Week 20, 2 goals against Burnley. To make matters worse, the second one was against 10 men even, so it seems like they've gone back to that attacking side of things. Talking about the kind of attacking side of things, Pedro Porro unfortunately was on par for a clean sheet, but it got lost in the dying seconds. but it would have been super weird if I saw Pedro Porro getting a clean sheet. In terms of attacking returns, he came quite close to a few shots, a few assists, but at the end of the day, Game Week 20, only 2 points. Then if Saliba didn't keep a clean sheet, chances are Gabriel didn't either. However, he did escape a yellow card, so he ended up on 1 point. So now you guys can see why I started Gabriel over Saliba. But like Aston Villa, Arsenal's defense is conceding a few goals to some pretty lackluster attacks, although in this fixture, Fulham actually played pretty well. So as mentioned, the worst part of the game week was going to be our defenders. No points came from them, or at least hardly any points. But let's go over to my favorite department, the midfield, where all our points were scored. So the first player I want to talk about is going to be Mo Salah. So he managed to score a massive 16 points, double to 32, but it could have been oh that sweeter. So you guys don't know, Mo Salah missed a penalty. Obviously, Dubravka saved that penalty. So this game was an absolute emotional roller coaster. So starting off with the penalty miss, he then went and scored a goal in the second half, got an assist, before finally scoring the second penalty late into that fixture. So I'm just happy that Mo Salah actually stood up and took the second penalty, because after the first miss, I thought that maybe someone else would be on them. So that really secured a massive captaincy haul. Now the first thing I just want to talk about is when I decided to captain Mo Salah. It was kind of around Friday. I know in the team selection I came out and said, whichever Man City asset I bring in, whether it's Foden or Alvarez, I will captain them. But on Friday, I came around to the fact that I wanted to captain Mo Salah. So the first thing might be a little bit superstitious, but I was in Namibia when Newcastle took on Liverpool. Whenever I am in Namibia, Salah absolutely bangs, and this week wasn't the exception. So yes, a little bit superstitious there, but I guess it did come out at the end of the day. But he also was a great captaincy option in my opinion. That Newcastle defense hasn't been great over the previous game weeks. Liverpool and Anfield are just a completely different animal, and we saw this with that massive captaincy haul. Now the scary thing might have actually been if I brought in Alvarez, I would have captained him, but because I went for Mo Salah, I went for another Man City asset. So yes, congrats if you guys did go for Mo Salah. If you guys captained Cole Palmer as well, great returns, and I'm just happy that he outperformed Alvarez versus Sheffield United. The next up we have Heung-min Son, who scored a goal and racked up a few bonus points. Nice little goodbye present before the Asia Cup. He's just such a clinical finisher. Then we have Saka, who also scored 7 points. So yes, a goal finally came from Saka. As far as I remember, it was quite early on into that fixture, and I think it was quite a lucky goal, to be honest. But any Saka returns are going to be appreciated because his form hasn't been great, and he was the lowest scorer in our midfield. Now, I already spoke about that Cole Palmer captaincy. I don't think many people went for it, but Cole Palmer basically got the Salah returns without the penalty miss, which took him to 18 points. So 2 goals, 1 assist, and if you guys watched that second goal, was so cold. I guess that's why they call him Cold Palmer. But anytime that you guys get an 18-pointer from about a 5.1 million, whatever he's priced at currently, that's literally insane. Just such good value for money. Now what I'm even happy about is because all these Chelsea attackers are coming back from injury, Cole Palmer is definitely the best one to bring in, the cheapest option, and should be nailed with all these good performances. But just super happy that I went for him because he still is a little bit of a differential and just a great overall FPL asset. Now the last player in a midfield department was a new signing. It was going to be Phil Foden for a massive 12-pointer, almost a Hattie, not a Hattie of goals, but a Hattie of assists. That also took him to the top of the bonus. So if you guys know, it was a decision between going for Foden or going for Alvarez. The reason I went for Foden was I was going to captain Salah anyways. And as I explained in the team selection, Alvarez would have become Haaland soon enough anyways. So rather than spending a transfer on a player I'm going to take out anyways in the future, I went for Phil Foden and this came out trumps. Just a great football player at the end of the day and a great FPL asset at the moment, but I'm slightly worried about Kevin De Bruyne's return. So let's see if Phil Foden continues to play in that kind of 10 slot. He's been great, the creativity's been there, and you would have seen that in Game Week 20. But as you guys can see, the midfield definitely was the best department this week. Can't really remember Game Week where the scores have been so high from all our midfielders, which I'll always take. Now last department to go over is going to be our forwards. Unfortunately, Dom Solanke only scored 2 points, but he did have a ton of chances, so I thought he was a little bit unlucky in this fixture. So on another day, probably could have had a Hattie or at least some returns, but because he is quite cheap, I don't really mind him blanking every so often. Then finally, Ollie Watkins racked up a few creative assists. Not the biggest return in the world, but an 8-pointer is always going to be useful. So thanks for that one, Ollie. But overall, our forwards unfortunately couldn't live up to the hype of our midfield department, but still a valiant attempt. But as you guys can see, definitely the week of the midfield department, the Mo Salah captaincy was even sweeter as a Liverpool fan, and those Palmer and Foden hauls also were pretty decent. But as mentioned, let me know in the comments down below, how did your game week go? Was it a great game week like myself? Did you guys unfortunately get a red arrow? Was it a tougher game week? And where are you guys sitting in the overall ranks currently? Now before I go over my actual transfer plan, as I always do, I want to show you guys the context of my current team selection, as it just gives you guys some background on my transfer plan. So let's go straight into it. With 2 free transfers and 5.8 million left in the bank, we are looking to potentially make a formational change. So on our bench this week, we do have some coverage. We've got Dubravka against Man City. That's a tough game, as well as Lascelles. But the 2 players we might need are going to be Konza against Everton and Archer against West Ham. It's a little bit weird seeing Archer benched. Wasn't expecting that. I thought that he definitely is one of the main players in that starting 11. But I expect him to come back to that starting 11 fairly shortly. With Konza, Everton away, this isn't a great game on paper though from a defensive point of view, especially with how Aston Villa have been defending recently. So because Dubravka's on the bench, Areola will be between the sticks. It's a great fixture though, Sheffield United away, and I do expect a clean sheet here. So yes, that might be quite dangerous because anytime there's expectation on Areola, usually doesn't perform, but Game Week 20 was the exception. Now backline is going to be a double up of Gabriel and Saliba. Crystal Palace is at home. This is a tougher game on paper. Eze is an absolute baller, but Elise's out with an injury. So fingers crossed we get the double up in the clean sheets. It's been a while since we've got that, and Arsenal need to bounce back from this poor form. Our final defender, Pedro Porro in the middle, United away, great fixture on the cards, but I'm expecting goals from both sides here. So Spurs can't defend. If you guys saw, Ben Davies apparently has a hamstring injury, so those defenders from Spurs are literally dropping like flies. But as always, Pedro Porro does offer that attacking threat. Let's hope for some goals and some assists, as I can't see a clean sheet unfortunately in this game. Now the next 2 options are probably the most important options of Game Week 21 and our transfer plan, and that's Mo Salah and Heung-min Son. Now you guys might be asking me why they are red flagged. Well, they are currently out of the country. Mo Salah is with Egypt and Heung-min Son's with South Korea. So both these 2 options are playing in the international competitions, and that's why they are red flagged, and they'll be missing about 3 to 4 game weeks. So the biggest thing about our transfer plan might be the change of formation, and the reason I still wanted to include Salah and Son in this team selection is just to show you guys the various options. So one transfer plan we might do is just replace Salah and Son straight up. We can still play a 5 in midfield. What we could do is take out Archer and then drop one of Salah or Son to our bench. So basically it's a 3-5-2 versus a 3-4-3, and those will be the 2 options we go into Game Week 21 with. So please just keep in mind that Salah and Son will be missing. We're going to probably transfer them both out, or at least one of them out, facilitating another forward or keeping the 5 in midfield. So we do currently have 3 midfielders at the moment at Saka, Palmer, and also Phil Foden. And I do believe if we don't bring in someone like an Erling Haaland, the captaincy will come for one of the 3. So I can see myself captaining Saka. Crystal Palace aren't the best defense. I can see myself captaining Palmer, who I am at the moment, as he's in the best form and has Fulham at home, or Phil Foden if I'm confident of a start. Now the Newcastle fixture might be quite tough, but as mentioned, you guys saw it against Liverpool. I think Man City can score a few goals, as Newcastle can't defend at the moment. So really happy with this 3 in midfield. I'll either be getting 1 more midfielder or 2 more midfielders. Comment down below who you predict those players will be. Then finally our forward department, Dom Solanke unfortunately missed out on that FA Cup game. Now the bad thing is we don't get any news if he's going to start because they play in the second half of Game Week 21. It's a game week that's split over 2 weekends. Now against Liverpool at home, this is a tougher game on the cards, but I do hope that Dom Solanke wipes out that Trent clean sheet. As a non-owner, I really do need him. Then finally Watkins against Everton away. This is a fine fixture on the cards. Aston Villa attack a lot better than they do defend, and Watkins has some great fixtures coming up. So if I was to do a team selection with no transfers made, obviously I can't do that. I have to make 1 move at least with 2 in the bank. But you guys can see that Salah and Son will drop out and Konza and Archer will come in. Now I don't want to do that. I want to bring in some fresh options. So let's go over my transfer plan. So let's go over the moves that I could potentially make. I'm looking to use both of my 2 free transfers to get an absolutely stacked starting 11. Now the first transfer I want to talk about is going to be for 1 man and 1 man only. It's Erling Haaland, the biggest talking point about Game Week 21. Now the first thing I want to remind you guys about is that Man City do play after the deadline. They play a few hours after, so I'm hoping for some early team news to say if Erling Haaland starts or not. If Erling Haaland does start, a definite transfer in might even be a Campsy option, so please watch out for some early team news. Hopefully we get it. But obviously if Erling Haaland's back or not is going to be integral to our transfer plan. If he is, I definitely want to bring him back, but Pep hasn't been super positive in his press conferences. He's basically said that Erling Haaland has trained 2 or 3 times. He's getting better but might not be fit for the FA Cup game coming up later or Newcastle in the Premier League, which is a little bit confusing as he has trained 2 or 3 times. So maybe the fitness isn't there, but I think over the next week it might get there. So let's hope for a positive update come maybe Thursday or Friday. But if Erling Haaland is back, it will be an upgrade of Archer out. I need a lot of funds in the bank, and that's why I have to downgrade Son or Salah, which I will talk about next. But basically, if Erling Haaland's back, a definite transfer in. If he's going to start, he's definitely the Campsy option to go for, as you guys have seen how bad Newcastle are. Now, if I am to afford Erling Haaland, or at least the Archer to Haaland move, I need a bit more money in the bank, and therefore I'll be downgrading one of Salah or Son, and that will definitely be Salah. Now, the reason for this is that I can afford a more expensive option on a Salah downgrade. If I do downgrade Son, I need someone for 5.9. I don't really like any of the options. Now, if I do downgrade Salah, I can afford someone slightly more expensive. I could actually go for a Kevin De Bruyne if I was confident of him starting a few games, but unfortunately that's not the case. So the option I'm looking at currently is going to be Mo Salah out, and that's going to be for Jarrod Bowen from West Ham. I just think the next fixtures are pretty decent. Now, Jarrod Bowen has actually risen twice. I do believe Mo Salah's dropped once. West Ham plays shortly in the FA Cup, so if Jarrod Bowen comes out injury-free, I'll probably make a move before the next price rise. So this move, Salah to Bowen, makes the most sense. It allows me enough funds to upgrade Archer to Haaland. Also really like Bowen over the next fixtures, and that's how this move is basically locked in. Now comment down below, who's your favorite Mo Salah or Human-Son replacement? Is it Jarrod Bowen, or are you guys looking at someone else? So to put the picture together, if Erling Haaland is back, the moves I will do is Erling Haaland in for Archer. I'll facilitate that with the funds by doing Salah to Jarrod Bowen, and then I'm still left with a few millions in the bank. Now the last transfer I want to talk about is going to be if Erling Haaland is not back, and therefore I'll keep the 5 in midfield. I'll have Salah and Son out, and keep the 2 up front. So the first transfer plan was going to be for a 3-4-3. I'll be keeping Son on the bench then for that blank game week. But if Erling Haaland's not back, I'll keep the 5 in midfield and take both the South Korean and the Egyptian out. Now in terms of replacements for Human-Son, there's one that's probably the most kind of nailed. It's going to be Richarlison. So yes, a like-for-like switch, but with Human-Son's blanking, definitely worth it, even with the signing of Timo Werner. If you guys haven't seen the latest transfer news, Werner will be joining Spurs, but I do believe Richarlison's undroppable at the moment, and will continue to play up front. Now yes, the fixtures might not be that great, United, Brentford and Everton, but at his price point, a nailed striker on penalties, believe it's worth the punt to go for. So once again, this will be if Erling Haaland is going to be missing Game Week 21 yet again. Even if he might be on the bench and not starting, I'll probably do this move, and then I'll just bring Erling Haaland in for Burnley in Game Week 22. Now Richarlison might not be the best replacement for Human-Son. It's actually someone else I'm looking at with a high ceiling, and that might be Diogo Jota from Liverpool. Now yes, the fixtures might not be as great. Bournemouth, Chelsea and Arsenal I think are slightly worse than the Spurs fixtures, but Diogo Jota just offers better stats. But this move definitely more of a punt. Liverpool play Arsenal and then play Fulham in the Carabao Cup, so lots of game time still before that Game Week 21 deadline for Liverpool. But Richarlison is definitely the more kind of safe option, the more nailed option, whereas Jota is the more fun kind of punt option. Let me know in the comments down below who you guys prefer. It might not even be Jota or Richarlison, it might be someone out there. It might be going for someone like an Eze or Phil Foden if you guys don't own him, but obviously I do. But lots of moves this week, so comment down below if you guys need any help. Always here to help on my Discord page or the YouTube comments. Let me see what your guys' transfer plans are and what moves you guys are making. But this is basically gonna wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. And I'll miss you guys for tons of content still before that Game Week 21 deadline, so make sure that bell notification is turned on. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.